Hey guys, Paul here again. Welcome back to Beach and Fishing. This is my site aimed at everything to do with fishing, rods, reels, catching fish, not catching fish, anything that you can think of that I would like to write about, that I look at and talk about with fishing. Today we're going to have a look at surf fishing with my 3 best surf fishing rods for beginners. Now this is one that I sort of wrote after chatting, as most of my posts are, about chatting with locals, about what was good, what rods they suggest, what rods they don't suggest. And as it is with everything to do with fishing, everyone has an opinion, everyone likes a different option, everyone looks for a different thing. So what I've tried to do today is just sort of, for those of you who are looking to get into surf fishing, some good fishing rod options that you can choose from that will give you the best chance to catch some fish, or just at least enjoy what you're doing in the environment that you're in. Now, obviously, all beaches are slightly different, so there's that sort of stuff to look at as well. So what we're talking about here is surf fishing rods. This one here, it's a bit hard to show you the whole thing because this is a one piece. So it goes all the way out the door into my lounge room. My little office is off the side of the lounge room. It goes all the way out in there, so it's a bit hard to show you exactly what it is. And again, it's a bit hard to show. This one's quite a whippy one. It's a medium pace and slow, which means that it bends sort of at the bottom here, which makes it nice and whippy. It's good for casting. And this was the first rod that I bought as a beginner. And this rod here is, it'll be 30 years old. Probably just about 25 years old, this one. It served me well, and it's something that I, as I say, would be good, very good for a beginner. Mine actually came in a combo with an LV surf reel. These are very popular in Australia. They went off the market for a while, then came back. This one is also 26 years old, works quite well. We will talk about that in a whole totally different area. But this one, it's a spinning reel. So I've had I've had spinning rods, I've had spinning reels on it. I've had the LV reels, and yeah, it's worked very well in each. And I'll go through the specs in this a little bit later. Although that said, this one is how long is this one? I used to know how long this one was. Let me put my old band glasses on. This one is 9 foot in length. It's slow, light, medium action. So yeah, it's I can feel everything in here. It's slow, meaning it bends down towards the rod, which makes it nice and whippy. Very good rod for a beginner, this one. So we'll talk about that one a bit more later on. But effectively, as we go through picking a surf rod, there's a couple of things to be aware of, and the main one is around where you're going to be surfing. Now, this one here worked well for me because, as I say, it was nice and light, nice and whippy. That said, I didn't really need to cast it a long way because most of where we went fishing, there was little gutters along the beach, meaning that you've got the beach, then you've got a nice little dip or a hole or a gutter, deep section, and then another sandbank behind it. And fish like to come through those gutters looking for food, and it's a little bit deeper, so they feel a little bit safer. And that's where we used to fish into, and quite often far at our feet. If not, at the very least, there'd be a little sandbank and then the gutter would be right there. So we didn't have to cast a long way, but we're also using really light sinkers, which is where the light rod worked very well for me. So think about the environment. So if you're in an environment where there's gutters, you won't have to cast as far and you won't need as long a rod. As I said, that one's only a 9 foot rod. I've got another one here, which is a very heavy rod, and it's a totally different thing. And I probably wouldn't recommend this one for a beginner, but it's 13 foot. As you can see, it comes in 3 pieces. I use this one when we go fishing for larger fish in stronger currents, and I use a heavy sinker on this one, throw it out, put it in a rod holder, and it just sits there. So this one's a heavy rod with a fast action, means it only bends at the top. I can cast it a bit further, but it uses heavy sinkers and just sits there. So that's why with mine, the beginner one, the first one I got, I could get away with 8 foot because 9 foot, sorry, so it doesn't have to go very far. That said, if you are fishing an area where you do need to get out right past all the breaks into the more open water to catch the fish that are out there, you would probably want a longer rod. So you are then looking at the 11, 12, 13 foot models to be able to cast that distance. Other things, if you're casting around rocks or the reef or something like that, then you might want something a little bit shorter, because you can probably get a little bit more accuracy with a shorter rod, especially if you don't have to cast a long way. And also if you're on a beach that is just totally flat and there's just breaks and you're fishing for fish, whatever you're fishing for in the breaks, then think about current. If it's a stronger current, this rod here, because it's so light and whippy, does not handle current very well, and it does not handle heavy sinkers and the like, because it's so light. Everything just almost bends in half with the sinker, and trying to pull it in is quite a nightmare. So again, I chose that for the beach that I was fishing on predominantly at that time. If I was buying a rod now, I still use that one because there's still lots of gutters where I now fish, but I did buy a different one for a different type of fish and different type of area. So have a look at that. Have a look at where you're fishing, and then we go into the actual rod itself. So the composition, this one here, I'll pick this one up because it's easier to grab than the one-piece one. This one is graphite. It's nice and light. That one is fiberglass. It's actually a little bit heavier, even though it's a light powered or action rod. It's actually a little bit heavier than this one. These days, you'll get most rods will come in. I mean, they're all come in pretty much the same thing: fiberglass, graphite, or carbon. Carbon fiber's lighter again. I haven't seen a lot of carbon fiber surf rods. I will say they tend to be, the smaller bait casting rods tend to be all carbon, and telescopic rods tend to be all carbon. But graphite or something like that is what you're looking for. You want to, as I said before, the length is what you're interested in, and length basically comes down to casting. So how far do you want to cast? If you need to really shoot that out a fair way, I'd be looking for a longer rod. Or if you're fishing behind a break, so if you know that where you fish there's the beach, then a lot of waves, and then the gutters out past that first round of break, sometimes that means you might want to hold your rod up a little bit higher. So a longer rod will allow you to keep the tip, and hence the line, up over that first lot of waves or shore break. Because if your line gets in there, the waves coming down will actually pull on your line, and then it gets loose and all that sort of stuff. So a longer rod for longer casting, or if you need to keep it high to keep it over the top of your first lot of shore break. Shorter rods if you're just going into the gutter. I mean, if you're after a rod that you want to use on the beach and from a riverbank or a lake bank or something, you could probably get away with an 8 or 9 foot. I said that's 9. I rarely use that off the riverbank. I tend to go down to like a 7 or an 8 foot. But an 8 foot will definitely work in the surf. I've got one of the guys I go fishing with, he only ever uses an 8 foot rod in the surf and reckons we're mad for using longer rods. That said, we can outcast him with that one if we're going for the ones out the back. But again, everyone has an opinion. So the rod length is what you're looking at. Then you've got your, as I say, the reel. Basically with the reels you're looking at, this is a spinner reel, so it goes, any reel that goes underneath, this is, if you see a spinning rod, that means the reel tends to go underneath that, or a this is my kayak one, but a spinner reel can go underneath that. If you are using a bait caster reel, I don't have one in here at the moment, but that's where the reel sits on top. Some people like them in the surf because bait casters can cast a bit further than the spinner reels because of the way they work. They're a bit harder to use, so if you're a beginner, probably avoid it for the moment. I rarely use bait casters. I like the egg beaters or these ones. These ones will tangle as well as a bait caster though, but I just find them easy to use. But again, if you've got a bait caster reel, make sure that you get a casting rod, meaning that the reel sits on top rather than underneath. So that's when you're dealing with reels. And power. Now power is, as I said before, where the rod bends and how easily it bends. So light to medium, which that one is, means it bends quite easily. And this one is slow, which means it bends at this end of the rod. Now you can't see this, but if I wiggle that, I can make the tip hit the ground from probably about 2 foot off the carpet, and if I wiggle it, the tip hits the ground. This one, however, being heavy and fast, it doesn't. I can wiggle it and it only moves just a little bit. So some people like whippier rods for casting. Some people say that in general, if you do any of the research, it'll say that you need a fast rod for casting, which means it only bends at the top. So when you cast it, it whips at the top and then goes pretty still quite quick, which means the line can come out nice and straight, even though because on a spinner rod, obviously the line's coming out like that. Others say the lighter ones because you can get a good whip on it and out it shoots, but the rod's still moving a little bit. So that's the argument for that. Obviously, the lighter rods they're a bit easier to use and they're a bit more sensitive. So if you're fishing for fish where you just need to feel even that little nibble, go a lighter rod. My recommendation, if you're just starting out, or even if you're someone who likes to fish at quite a few different beaches, I'd go somewhere in the medium action, medium power, which sort of means it sort of bends right in the middle of the rod. Medium action means it's a little bit whippy, but not as whippy as the light one that I've got there. And that will just give you the best option across all the different spectrum of beaches that you might go to. And you know what, at the end of the day, I would be picking if you're going across the base of a number of different beaches, I'd be going like a 9 or a 10 foot length, and I would be looking for a medium action, medium power to just give you across the board. Obviously, you've got the variations, and it comes down to preference. I love that light rod. I have a lot of fun with that. Again, I've got friends who don't like the light rods. This is a very heavy one, and I said what I use it for. I don't like using this one if I'm standing and fishing. I just find it too rigid and gets heavy after a while because of the way the rod holds. That's just my personal preference, and that's what fishing's all about. So that's what that is. Other things to look for. This one here has stainless steel guides, and that's a ceramic O-ring in there. The other one there has plastic, although it's lasted 26 years, so the plastic mustn't be too bad. The ceramic ones are supposedly will give you a smoother feed. I did have another rod with a ceramic O-ring that must have got hit somewhere because it had a little crack in it, and every time I cast it, just snapped the line. So be aware of that. Zinc oxide's another one you see quite often in the O-rings. They're supposed to be nice and smooth. Just make sure that you look after your rods. Most of them these days, again, you can see that the guide there that's pretty well grabbed on there by all encompassing. I think that's like a plastic or maybe even a fiberglass type or even graphite type cover. I'm not actually sure what that is, but it's got that well encased in that protective cover. So you just need to rinse that off when you finish. Rinse your whole rod off every time you use it. And again, the newer ones with the seating, like this seating's all plastic and graphite, so nothing really is there going to get into any trouble. But on my older one, you can see there I've got some stainless steel on there. Again, it's stainless steel, but just make sure you rinse everything off when you are finished. This one here, if I can spin this around some way without knocking everything off the shelf or putting massive marks on the ceiling, you can see how bendy that is there. Some of these have actually started to rust a little bit. I mean, as I say, it's 25 years old, but you can even see the difference in technology now between what's holding those guides onto these ones. This one's not as protective, and there's you can see little cuts and stuff in there, but they don't work. I've actually had to replace the end one. It tipped off on a tree when I had it in a rod holder once. But yeah, so as you can see, that's one piece, very, very whippy compared to the other one. So we talked about power and all that sort of stuff. 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 piece. Look, comment below. Would love to hear your opinion on this, because in my opinion, the times I've caught fish or the times I haven't caught fish haven't really come from the fact whether a rod is 1 piece, 2 piece, or 3 piece. I have 1 piece rods. This one I bought as a 3 piece simply because it's much easier to get this in the back of the truck than the 1 piece. The 1 piece I have to put the rack on the top and zip tie it on and all that sort of stuff. And it's just, to be honest, annoying. So I got 3 piece just for ease of transport. Totally up to you. Some people swear by 1 piece. Some people, like me, can't see whether that makes me a more amateur fisherman or not. I can't really see the difference, and it's never really bothered me. Occasionally they get a bit loose, and sometimes your eyelets will be slightly out of whack. You just got to turn that around. But apart from that, I think you're okay with whatever you need to get. Okay, so as I said, what I used was that for my beginner rod, it was a light to medium power, light action, slow action, which meant it bent up near the reel, which means it's very whippy. It's fiberglass. It's 8 foot. If I was buying a brand new one now, the only difference I would probably make between the one that I bought and the one I get now would be I'd probably move up to a medium action, just so it's not as whippy. That would be the only change I'd make. Apart from that, it's worked very well for me across all types of beaches, whether I've been casting, wanting to cast a long way, whether I've been working in gutters or holes or round rocks or whatever. And as I say, the only thing that it can't handle, which is why I would probably go to a medium, is it doesn't like heavy sinkers. It just bends too much. And when I try and cast a long way, it gets a bit, and it goes like that, and it just affects the feet of the line. So it won't cast as far as some of the like a faster model. So even if you've got a medium and then a fast build, it'll cast a bit further for you. Okay, let's have a look at then the 3 options I've come up with that might help you out if you're looking for that. So through this post, you can see all the stuff I've just been talking about. So if you want to read a bit more about that, absolutely go for it. So the first one I've got here is a 3-piece graphic surf rod. It's around $50. It's you can get it 9, 11, 13 or 15 foot. Again, I would stay around the 9 to 11 foot unless you really want to cast a long way. Action moderate with fast, which is what we talked about, so it will cast quite well. 3-piece composition and a rubber shrink tube handle, which makes it quite comfortable. Carbon fiber composition, I actually said that not many of them are carbon fiber, this one is. Stainless steel mixed with ceramic guides, so it's nice and smooth, and plastic wheel seat, stainless steel hood. So it's like that first one I showed you. It won't rust as long as you rinse it out quite well. As I say, it's good reel, good price. I would see this working across most beaches if you stuck to between the 9 and 11 foot models. It will take a good range of line strength and it can handle some heavier sink weight because of that moderate action. So that's the first one I'll be looking at. Second one here is an Akuma CSX Graphite surf fishing rod. It's if you're going to do a little bit more fishing, this one I think is a very good one. The graphite build is quite strong, which means it can handle a little bit more line. 10'6", which is a nice even middle of the range length. Medium and moderate to fast, which again means it will cast well. 2-piece rubber shrink tube handle. It's got carbon fiber in the thing, which means it's really lightweight. And lightweight's something good in a surf rod. I didn't actually mention that much. If you stand there all day, the lighter the better. Stainless steel frames with super hard zirconium inserts. So these inserts here are zirconium, which apparently is for longer casting. And they reckon they've done some high corrosion resistance tests over 1,200 hours of continuous salt spray, and it did not corrode. So there you go. That's their claim to fame with that one. As I say, it's a good durable rod for a decent price. If you're going to do a lot more fishing, this one would be a good one to choose from. A little bit more expensive, around 130 bucks, but as I say, it would be one that I would certainly recommend having a good look at. And then the third one here is St. Croi Mojo graphite surf rod. Again, a little bit more expensive, but if you're looking for something that you're going to use a lot or want to use across a lot of different areas, including onto the lake or estuary, I would seriously consider looking at this one as well. It's lighter specs, so it's medium to light power, but still moderate to fast. So even though it's a little bit more whippy, it still only bends at the top, which means it will give you some very good casting abilities with it. It can handle the bigger catches based on that. 1 or 2 piece depending on the length. X-Rack composite handle, so you can see that there. I think it's just that same rubber stuff that we've looked at before. Graphite fiber with high strain carbon fiber in it, which means it's nice and strong. 2-piece. They say 2-piece models provide 1-piece performance by the way that it sets into itself. weight-saving guides, zirconium rings and black frames. So very, very strong, very versatile. If you need to cast a bit further, out of the three, this would be the one that I would be choosing if you need to get that casting. And up to 12 foot means you'll be able to cast a lot further, hold it up out of the waves and go from there. And that's pretty much why I've chosen it. Good for casting, can handle a lot of line strength, and again, if you need to catch on a high shore break or cast longer, go to the 12-foot model. Otherwise, stick to the 7 to 11. Lower if you need to go looking at using it in the surf and in the lake. Okay, so that's my 3 best surf fishing rods for beginners. Hope that was helpful for you. If you are watching this within YouTube, please like and subscribe to my channel below. That way I can keep you up to date with everything to do with the world of surf fishing rods and surf fishing and kayak fishing and all the other types of fishing there are. If you're watching this within the post, if you have any experience with the rods, any experience with different types of rods, as in carbon, graphite, 1-piece, 2-piece, whatever, disagree with anything I've said within the post, or just want to have a general chat about fishing or need help finding certain things, comment below. Love to help you out. Okay guys, happy fishing, and I'll chat to you soon. Bye.